This car is the most honest car you ever see.
It's been a dream ever since I've had it.
The first time I heard that engine screaming, I thought, I gotta have one of those.
For me, the cars have personality.
What's great about a BMW Classic is the community that surrounds it.
When you listen to that, that's why we're here.
Welcome to Classic Heart, the BMW Group Classic podcast. My name is JP, and we have a very nice guest from my hometown, Hamburg. It is Emil Pourkian, and Emil is not only a good friend, he is also one of the shakers and movers of the young timer and classic car scene in Hamburg. He is into the trade. He is also doing events. He creates books. He creates trends on Instagram. So many things which I really want to learn more about, how you can fix everything in 24 hours of a day, because this man needs at least 48, I would say. Emil, with no further ado, welcome to Classic Heart.
Thank you, JP. Thank you for having me. It's really cool to be here.
I think we have lots to talk about, and that's very nice. But first, tell us a bit about you. Who are you, Emil?
My name is Emil. I'm the founder of Emil's Garage, a vintage car brokerage, content creation, and social media agency located in Hamburg. I was also born in our beautiful city and live here since 2009. During the last years of my school career, I went to my home country, Azerbaijan, and lived there for several years with my family. And since 2 years, I'm active in our super cool car scene and happy to be there.
It was a big step, and I think we share no secret, because you left a high-paid career in shipping. I mean, it couldn't be more Hamburg than being in shipping. And then you decided, no, that's not thing. You worked for a quite big and one of the global players in shipping. So what was the reason to leave that, like, security of that job?
The idea was just to start something new, because I finished my university degree and I was already working for nearly 10 years in the shipping industry, still not turned 30. And I was like, what should I do next? What's the next big thing? And then the Corona epidemic hit. And unfortunately, no travels were allowed. So I couldn't take the next steps. So I decided just to start something with my hobby. And my hobby was old cars. And I just took the crisis as an opportunity and tried to see if there is any chance to make out of my hobby a living.
What did your social circle say about that move? Were they supportive or...
Of course, they were all supportive, starting with my friends, and they were really happy for me. They questioned for a long time how I could make a living in this new world, which was actually, more part of my hobby. But if I transfer it to my parents, it was rather an absolutely no-go, but mostly because of the Corona epidemic, where I decided to go this way, which was not necessarily the smartest decision back then in time. And by that, I mean just quitting a super safe job and starting a self-employment during a crisis. But as you see, it worked.
And I mean, look at your smile when you say this. It shows exactly that it was the right decision.
Thank you.
What was the idea when you started with all this? Because, I mean, it's fair to say that you are much more than just, in brackets, a car broker.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I can't really call myself a car broker, as I see myself much more as a guy who makes the car dreams come true and trying his best to keep this classic car theme alive. But mostly, I also try to make the wishes of my customers, but also of friends, came true by increasing also the value. I don't buy cars, but work with the portfolio of my clients. And I think that's a really big advantage, because I don't necessarily have to park a lot of capital into any items to make a business out of it. I think that's a really big advantage. And that's also maybe a thing why this scene is now starting to be modern by using the social media tools and everything which is currently going into digitalization. Therefore, coming back to your question, I see not 100% myself as a vintage car broker, but more like a guy who enjoys doing everything which has to do something with old cars.
I remember the first time I saw you was on Instagram, and I sat there and was so happy to see a cool young chap doing things from cars a bit different, and then also finding out doing this in Hamburg. I mean, everyone loves where their own roots are, in a sense. And so that was the first thing. I actually think I remember that I got in touch with you, like that I saw what you did. Was it like that the social media thing was the starting point for you? Like, was Instagram the starting point?
It was not only the starting point, but when I started my self-employment in 2021, I realized that especially in the beginning, diversification is super important to survive in this shark tank, I would say.
Yeah.
It was not easy to partner with personalities, you know, from the automotive scene or with car dealers with several years of experience, especially because of my past career. And that's why, in addition to photography and the commission business, I started early to support my competitors and now partners in the area of social media by showing their portfolio on my channel. Because I was the guy, from shipping, and I had no knowledge, anything about people who own these beautiful cars. And the good thing was that the scene was a bit outdated.
Yes.
And I think this kind of new thinking in combination with some high quality content on social media platforms opened a lot of doors for me and of course also for my partners.
I couldn't agree more. And this is also what we saw when we started with the Classic Driver channel. And also if you look at all the activities, all the OEMs doing, including BMW, Mercedes, BMW Classic, everyone, like they're using these channels now, like it's supernatural they're using it now. But when we all started, it was really like something very new. I'm very happy that I had this in my life to understand how this could change. I mean, social media can also be criticized, and that's fair because there are also lots of negativity around it. But just for our field, I think social media was like a very cool revolution in 100%. Terms of communicating passion.
Yes.
Yeah. Actually, I remember very well when we saw each other in real life the first time. I was driving with my girlfriend at that time in a Share Now car. It was a BMW i3, actually. Yes. I drove in the new build a quarter of the city of Hamburg, which is called Hafen City. So that's the port city, or like the port quarter. And you were shooting a video. I think it was it a Taycan? I think it was a Taycan, right?
Yes, it was. Yeah. That was one of the greatest surprises, you know, because I wasn't really expecting to see you, and I just only saw you always on Instagram, and it felt like we knew each other already several years, you know. And we made a final video of the Porsche Taycan Turbo S with my friend Davis Pola, which the Porsche Center in Hamburg had made available for me for a weekend. And I just wanted to create something new and show what you could do if you were more often in front of the camera instead of behind it. And yeah, it was super fun. So thank you to Porsche Hamburg and to my buddy Fleming Pink, who made the car accessible for me. I mean, if you think about it, who just gives you a car for the weekend, which also costs more than 200,000 euros. And then also to someone who's just fresh in the scene. Yeah. But yeah, to be honest, I currently enjoy being more behind the camera than in front of it. Yeah, after all, it's all about the cars and not about me. So it was a really cool project, a cool experience. And I think we delivered some really cool stuff.
Yeah, something new. And I think this is also why this caught my attention. Tell us about Sundowner, because this is one of your larger side projects, I would say.
That's true. In 2020, I had a friend, his name is Thomas, and we had a WhatsApp group, and sometimes he just wrote inside in German, you know, wer hat Lust auf einen Sundowner? So who's up for a Sundowner? And everyone in the group knew what was to do. So he meant we all meet secretly at the port after work and just drove without any sense through the streets, drinking some spezi, exchanging ideas, because we are not legally allowed to do anything else. So it was also the high phase of the Corona epidemic. Yeah. And contact with people outside your own house was forbidden. And we just tried to trick the system by driving around, and everyone just sitting in his own car and driving through the port. And then the first Corona wave was over. The first car meetings happened, and I quickly noticed that most of them always took place outside of Hamburg. And at the beginning, it didn't bother me at all. It was super cool, just to have a road in front of you, driving 2 hours with friends.
Yeah.
And in 2021, when I decided to do my own business, I quit the job and I still had to work for minimum 4 months. And this idea came, what should be if I just make an event where I invite all the people to Hamburg? This was the idea. And then I thought maybe it's also cool if I name it like Thomas always wrote in the group, let's make a Sundowner. So I just rent a parking garage and invited some friends and said, let's have a cool Sundowner together. Then a friend of mine, his name is Johannes from Studio Josh, I told him, hey, if I am doing a party, I need a cool picture. I love the Lamborghini Countach. Can you do something? So he just made me a poster with a Countach on it. And I quickly reached the maximum amount of 250 people I could invite legally. And that made such a big waves. You can't imagine. I mean, I was so connected with the classic car scene community in a completely different way. And most importantly, there was another reason why everyone should come to our beautiful city, Hamburg. And yeah, this is the reason, or this is the story how this Sundowner event started.
I mean, it's lovely to hear, because if you grew up in Hamburg, and we can only recommend to visit Hamburg, because it is exactly the magic when you drive down the port and you drive up the river and down the river. So whatever direction you go, on the eastern side, on the western side, doesn't matter. It's very beautiful. So I love that this is the base of the idea of the Sundowner. And you just recently did a larger one in a very special place as well, right?
Yes, that's true. This year was the topic, my past, because it was also, not a dream, but I thought it's cool when I connect my past with the future, and my past is shipping. So, and unfortunately, the brand Hamburg Süd is not longer in the market since Maersk took over the company. But we have another very beautiful and big company located in Hamburg, and it's called Hapag-Lloyd. And of course, I had some contacts, and I just tried my best and told them, hey guys, you remember me? I'm still alive, but doing something with cars, not with containers anymore. And I just asked if there is any possibility to rent their container stock, their container terminal in the port. And I would love to make a car event on their terminal. And they were at first like, are you crazy? This is not our daily business. So we are handling containers. But yeah.
And it's a high security area.
Yes,
right?
of course.
So don't forget that. It's like Fort Knox.
Actually, you're not allowed to go there. Customers are paying the ISPS surcharge. It's for the high security reason. Everywhere are cameras. But yeah, beside of that, I was so passionate about this topic, and they couldn't say no. And I was really happy to get the official approval for making a car event at a very high secured area. And yeah, this was the reason why the Sundowner took place at the container terminal this year. And we had 917 guests.
Wow.
Crazy when you look back to 2021, where I started with 250 people. And we had over 300 cars there. Unfortunately, it was raining, as you know.
Okay,
Hamburg
that's,
is not always the city where the sun is shining, but it's come from the inside. So
yes,
but it was a success. I'm very, very happy that so many people came, even when the weather god wasn't at our side.
Oh, the support is there.
And yeah.
Absolutely. What kind of cars do you expect when you come, when we invite people listening in to join for the next Sundowner? What kind of cars are welcomed?
First of all, every car is welcome. The Sundowner is about passing on the theme of classic cars to the younger generation. This is one of my main reasons why I'm doing this. And I think also it's completely different than a Cars and Coffee, where you just drive there, parking your car, eating some nice bratwurst, and looking some cars and leave. I mean, we are doing so much stuff, you know, like adding ping pong, table tennis, a mini golf course. We have basketball courts, DJs who are playing super nice music. We have some cool gifts from partners. We even raffled the car this year again, a BMW E36 316i Compact. And I believe because we appeal to various generations with this different speech to our audience, we managed to make people with our €1,000 cars happy to be a part of it, but also someone who is joining with his 1.5 million Carrera GT.
Yeah.
And what I really love about the scene is that nobody gets excluded. So this passion is embraced, whether you come by a bicycle or whatever. As long as the enthusiasm is there, the scene is open to everyone.
Yeah.
And this is something really special. And this is something which I only have seen in this community, in this scene.
Exactly. And that's the beauty of all the things around cars. And unfortunately, I couldn't make it to the Sundowner event this year, and I will for sure come to the next one. It will be boldly marked in my calendar. But as you said, I think the beauty of it is really the variety. The openness of the car people, the car community is unseen. I mean, at the Sundowner, our friends, the Hofmeisters, were there with some BMW youngtimers. You have Aston Martins there. You had everything from really literally A to Z. You have everything.
We had a Twingo. We had a 512 BB.
Yes.
It was
crazy.
For everyone was something there. And what I really love about the events is, like when it was in 2021, there was the guy who came in his red Diablo, and next to him was this guy with his Renault R5.
Yeah.
And, you know, they talked to each other.
Yes.
It was super cool to see. And everyone was just happy to be there and to exchange. And the guy said, oh, I had this Diablo as a poster in my room.
Yeah.
And now I'm just seeing it here. And yeah, it's something really special.
Absolutely. Why do you think people who love cars like this new way of club in addition? So what's the new thing on Flitzer? What's the new thing on Hofmeisters? What do you think is so different that it's so attractive to people?
Actually, I don't think that it's something new. It's for me just something which is up to date.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is the reason why it works in each city. So if we talk about the vehicle, if we talk about Flitzer Club in Berlin, if we talk about Heize Club in Stuttgart, Onassis in NRW, Petrosov in Sylt, everyone is, you know, doing it at the current time.
Yeah. Emil, we spoke about Sundowner, but there's one burning question. Have you ever been to a Wheels and Weißwurst event? Have you been to Munich?
Unfortunately, not yet.
You should change that.
But the good thing is, as just a few people know, I'm a part of the Hofmeisters crew. And
you are?
That's the reason why I was allowed to be a part of the Hofmeisters party in Hanover when the brand new BMW M3 Competition Touring was released. And
mega.
That was insane, you know, to see all the people there, all the faces which I already know, and being there as like it felt like family, you know, just hanging out with friends. It was super cool. Yeah. And because of that advantage, I'm really giving my best.
I mean, giving your best is not enough, my friend. Sorry, but if you're being part of the Hofmeister family, which is breaking news to me and to everyone, but I mean, we couldn't think of any better fit for this nice organization, I would say. And our shout out goes to Toby, Razi, and Jasper, and all the other guys around that,
Matt,
of course.
Benny,
yes, everyone. Those guys, I mean, the podcast was hilarious. But our first recording of 4 people in one podcast, including me. So that was really, really fun. And I mean, these people are so lovely. No, but the reason why I'm asking is because I think that the beauty of the Wheels and Weißwurst event is that it's so not corporate. And that's what I really like. And I find it quite cool. And that under the guidance of Benny Voss from BMW Group Classic, I mean, he's the big connector between all the clubs and all the new organizations around it. to create this event. And it reminds me a little bit from the atmosphere, like the Sundowner. But the Bavarians, I mean, for us from Hamburg, these people are very far away from us, right? But the Bavarians do it differently. While we have a Sundowner, they are more the morning people and having their Weisswurst before 12 o'clock.
I mean, actually, I really have to go to Munich because always when I did a Sundowner, all my friends from BMW Classic from Munich, they came all the way along to Hamburg. The problem is sometimes, I mean, imagine last year we had a season closer, yeah, and we wanted to do something in Munich, something like Wheels and Weisswurst. And then we decided, how about every city is doing his own closer? And if I'm responsible for Hamburg, of course I cannot attend at the party in Munich, so I had to stay here. Yeah, we gathered 45 cars, we drove through the port, got catched by the police without registration. The cologne, you say?
You mean motorcade?
Yeah, exactly. We were too many cars, but thank God they were also into BMWs and did not tell us anything. Good. So they said, okay, just beachten Sie die Straßenverkehrsordnung und alles gut. So everything went well. But yeah, in the future, I will be definitely there.
Good, you should. We make sure that you're coming, even though we need to kidnap you or something like this. I'm not sure. We'll find ways.
Okay.
And besides these kind of new events like Wheels and Weisswurst, there are, of course, also the grand dame, I would say, of the event world, the concours. So we have the Concorso d'Eleganza Villa d'Este, we have Pebble Beach, we have Chantilly, just to name a few. And of course, there are many, many more out there which haven't been around for ages and decades now. I mean, they understood also that there is a new way of meeting and new way of consuming. And so they adapted. I think they're doing a great job in this because they're getting more and more modern and more they understand that there is different interest in a different audience and they all could be put together under one roof. So what is your impressions around the things that building up around the Concorso d'Eleganza Villa d'Este?
What I really liked this year is that it was not only the main event, they did also a really great job for the community again by doing the Rennmeister X Hofmeisters event on a Friday evening. I mean, I really felt like I'm in a house party, you know, when I was a student. And there were so many popular faces in this room. Starting from a regular guy like me, you know, who is just coming from Hamburg, up to people like Ferdi Porsche, for example, people like the head of Rolls-Royce design, Anders Warming. And you see these people on Instagram, you see these people in the news, you see these people in the press of a car manufacturer. And this time you had the chance to get access to these people and just to talk to them. Yeah. Of course, I also had my fanboy moment at this morning. I went to him and I was like, oh my God, is it you? And it was a bit awkward. But yeah, I told him also that because of him, I bought also another car.
Which was the car?
It was the Porsche 912 because he had a really nice video about his connection to this car and to his father. And it catched me so much that I was like, oh gosh, I think I also have to buy a car like this. But yeah, beside of that, this is the reason why I won't forget this weekend, because compared to last year, they really did something special where really everyone is welcome in this event. I mean, of course, there's everyone welcome, but you know, in these events that we're really talking about the high class. There are the most beautiful cars in the world there, the most exclusive event. You can't easily get the access to these places. And now you are here at the middle of the party and you can just talk to everyone. This is something, well, I'm really thankful for BMW Classic that, they gave me the chance to be a part of it again.
I think you said a wonderful thing. I mean, Anders was there because Anders wanted to go and was curious to see this. There was no obligation from him, being the head of Rolls-Royce design, to go there. He just wanted to go there. Because we just spoke on another event in London. We spoke to each other about this and how much we loved it, and that we have him playing next time music because he's a gorgeous musician. And he's a typical Danish gentleman, I have to say. Very, very cool chap. And you put it right to the point. I mean, it's really like, this is what it's all about. It's again, and I repeat myself because I think I say this every bloody every podcast. It's like without people, cars are rubber, metal, plastic, wood, and liquids.
Yes.
Done. But talking about cars, because I think we should also share, you gave us some ideas of what cars you owned or you're interested in, but there's one special car I know that has a very special place in your heart, which is not commonly known in this part of the Western world, and that's the 1962 Volga GAZ M21.
Yeah, it's the car I learned to start the engine in because my grandfather had a car like this. And it's also the first car where I was sitting in front of the steering wheel. And nearly, I would say 20 years later, I was sitting in the bus driving to work. And on the way, I just saw this black Volga GAZ M21 in Hamburg.
Gotta show, yes.
Yeah.
Da.
And it was in Hamburg, and usually you don't see cars like this in Hamburg. And I was like, oh my gosh, this car still exists, because I didn't forget it, but it was like, I was more into other cars than looking for a Sovietsky car, from the 60s. Yeah. And the first thing I did at Hamburg Süd was not opening my mailbox. It was opening mobile.de just to see if there are some similar models in the German market. And unfortunately, there were maybe 2 handful cars available, but not in the shape, or even when in the shape, then super expensive. And then I remembered that my cousin in Azerbaijan, he told me about a similar website called Turbo AZ. Turbo AZ.
Here we go.
It's actually a copy of Mobility, And I just searched the car there, and over 50 Volga GAZ 21s came out. And I searched, I looked at the white one, and then I found this car. And it looked so similar to the car of my grandfather. He had a white one with a dark red interior.
Wow.
But this model was also white outside, but the interior wasn't black. And I sent some pictures to my aunt. She's still living there. And I asked her, Sabina, it looks so similar. I mean, even the workshop case for the parts in the back, in the trunk, it looks similar.
To the toolbox.
And she was like, I mean the toolbox, exactly. The toolbox looks similar to his one. What do you think? I mean, it's not red inside, but it might. And she was like, Emil, it's the same car. And I was like, what? And she said, it's the same number plate. And then I had to call this guy. This guy was an old man, over 70 years old. And I asked him about the history, and voila, he bought the car from my grandfather. And in 2018, I decided to fly back to my family to see all my friends, and took my brother with me, Dennis. And we checked the car. I met this guy. And it was, it was so crazy for me to see this car 20 years again afterwards. When I saw the car last time. And the good thing was that the red interior is still available, because he just put the black one over the red one. So,
really? Like cover?
Yeah, it was just a cover. And I thought it's a really cool idea to make a surprise for my mom. And I just bought the car. As you know, I was working in shipping, so bringing the car from Baku to Hamburg was not a problem. Easy cheesy lemon squeezy.
Exactly.
The car came here after 35 days to Hamburg.
Would you take this car for like a little bit of money in my container?
Exactly, JP. And it was the dumbest decision of my life. And I tell you why. Because in Germany, we have a place, it's called TÜV.
Yes.
And the TÜV, you have to pass a technical process here.
Yes.
He said, my friend, it's a super nice car. I love the story, but your underbody is completely under rust. So you better fix the car, and then you can come again. And with that, the story ended. So I think the cheapest offer from a restoration workshop was 18,000 euros just to rebuild the car. And then I showed the car to my mom. She was super excited. And then I told her what I did and with the restoration costs. And yeah, in the end, I think it would be smarter if I would just keep the car in Azerbaijan, Baku, fix it there, restoring there, and then bringing it here. But yeah, no, I cannot change the past. The car is still here. And it's also the reason why I started with Emil's Garage, because I wanted to do some pocket money, and since I needed some pocket money for the car, the business went to the right direction, where I had to quit my main job. And yeah,
but the story is so wonderful that you got reunited with the car that you had your first idea of driving behind the steering wheel and stuff like that, and has been in the family for a long time and just got back. I think that's very wonderful. How would you describe the Volga? I mean, this was like an upper class car, or was it in the Soviet era?
It was an upper class car. Only people who worked for the government were able to drive this car, or of course, police officers, taxi drivers. Yeah. And as far as I remember, my grandfather also worked for the tax government in the Soviet Union.
Oh, he had many friends then.
Yeah, and therefore he had the chance to get one. And I think he was also one of the last guys who still drove this car after the Soviet Union broke down, I would say.
Yeah, after the curtain falls.
Exactly. Everyone wanted to drive Western cars, and he was like, no, I like this car. I want to keep it. And he kept it as long he could.
So we spoke a bit about the roots in Azerbaijan with your grandfather and the family coming from Azerbaijan. How would you describe the car scene in Baku? I mean, I could imagine Azerbaijan being a very special country in many, many fields, very early detachment from the Soviet Union, in a sense, being very independent through, is it oil or gas?
Both.
So very, very, very independent. So how would you describe the car scene there?
I would say if we compare it to Poland, it's very similar. So the scene for the new hypercars is super big. You don't believe it. I mean, when you're there, you see all the hypercars. It's crazy. And then you also see where all the oil and gas money is going. Yeah. So they are really buying as crazy. Also, driving a regular AMG is not cool enough. So you have to get a Brabus one. You have to get one from Mansouri. But there's also a very big community which is active in the classic car scene. And you won't believe it. There was a guy, his name is Jaku. He came to my Sundowner. I mean, I don't know this guy, we just chatted on Instagram. That's it. Yeah. On Wednesday, 4 days before my Sundowner, he wrote me, hey, Emil, I saw you're doing a Sundowner. Should I come? And I was like, if you like to, you can come. And he said, of course. Okay, I just bought the ticket. I'm tomorrow there. And I was like, what? And he came from Baku on the Thursday to Hamburg and wanted to be a part of the Sundowner. And then we exchanged. He showed me all the pictures, all the guys who are doing drift events in Baku with their E30, E36 models, just driving like crazy. I mean, thanks to the Formula One, Baku's also getting, more actively in the car scene. Yeah. And I think it's something really, really positive. And that's also why I say it's something like when I'm in Poland, unfortunately, I've never been there, but when I see the pictures of Maciek and all my other buddies there, it's like I'm seeing my hometown, because they're also so passionate about all these cars. It's crazy.
I mean, that's absolutely cool because, it's so far away also from the mentality and all these kind of things that it's really for me, I'm super curious to go one time to see all these places.
We can go together.
Of course we will, because I need a tour guide there who knows all the good places to go and to prevent me from buying a Volga. So Azerbaijan, I have no clue. I mean, I saw the Formula One, that's it. Please excuse my ignorance. But would you consider Azerbaijan a cool country for doing a road trip, for example?
Yes, of course. I mean, 100%. But JP, it only works if your car has enough ground clearance. So you have to have a car which has a little bit more space. Yeah. Because the main roads, they're perfect. But as soon as you go off of the main road, then it's getting a little bit difficult. So driving with a Lamborghini will be a little bit difficult, or a BMW M4 competition.
Yeah. So what's the nature like in Azerbaijan? I mean, how does it look like? Is it hilly? Also, are there mountains? Is it flatlands?
We have everything there because we are in the middle of Eurasia.
Yeah.
So that also means in summer, you're feeling like in the desert, you know, it's also like 45 degrees. And in winter, it's like you're in Siberia, you know, it's like minus 45 degrees. We have mountains, we have flatland, we have everything what you need. And this is a plus point, but it's also like you're always in the extreme.
Yeah. It sounds absolutely tempting to go there and do a road trip.
Yeah. I
mean, if you have that.
I mean, I'm also planning to do a trip, but not from Hamburg to Baku, more like from Baku to Hamburg.
Okay. So Sundowner, Baku.
Yeah, not yet. I mean, you know that I'm fanatic, of course, and there are some cars I'm really into it, like F355 or BMW M5 E39. But in Azerbaijan, there is still a car which really fascinates me. I'm actually not sure if I should tell you, but yeah, anyway.
Go ahead, come on.
It's the Lada. You know, the Sovietsky Fiat? They look like Fiat 125.
Yeah.
If everything goes as planned, I see myself next year with my brother Dennis buying a Lada 2106 or 7 and simply just driving it from Azerbaijan to Georgia, from Georgia to Turkey, to Greece, to all the Balkan countries, and continuing up north.
You know, that sounds absolutely amazing, and that we cannot wait to follow you on Instagram by doing this. So keep us all posted. And exactly, for those who want to stay tuned, I think it's fair to also share the Instagram handle. It's Emil's Garage. It's absolutely worthwhile, and you find all information about the Sundowner events and about his life and what he has in his garage parked for his clients, what cars he enjoys. And of course, you will also see the Volga on that channel. We spoke about a lot of cars, but what always fascinates me is the why. So what is, from your point of view, very personal, what is the reason why cars are magic?
I wouldn't say cars in general, but more the cars with history. I have a really good example for you, JP. Recently, I'm not sure if you saw the Volkswagen Golf 1 convertible in my story.
Yeah,
it's called also Erdbeerkörbchen.
Yes.
So for many, it might not seem special. And when I heard through a friend that an elderly lady wants to sell this car, I didn't expect so much beyond the cute car, you know. And I visited her and was directly left speechless by how beautiful her house looked. The walls were covered with oil paints, and there's so many pictures that you couldn't even see the color of the walls. Anyway, we had a really pleasant conversation, and later she allowed me to take her car for a test drive. I drove along the river, along the Ulster, and just before returning the car to her, I looked at the vehicle registration, you know, the small paper.
The paperwork, yeah.
And there was her name, but also a title, and the title reads Princess.
Nice.
Can you imagine that? I mean, it was so crazy. You know, in my head, you know, all the puzzles, they came together, and I could see why she lived in that house and why so many old items like this, you know, it looked like a museum. The living room was a museum. And of course, there are also people with such tastes without having a royal background, but it gave me a unique impulse and changed everything. And yeah, I simply love cars with history. And I believe it's the people who evoke this magic around them. You feel much more connected to the vehicle than if it just were the car, the sheet metal. And that's also why cars with history sell much better. This is my own experience than vehicles with no history. So without people, there is no life in cars.
That's a wonderful answer. And I mean, it's it could be even one title, one word, one name, whatever, which makes the complete difference.
Yeah.
I mean, I had a similar thing with my Range Rover. So I looked up who was the first owner just by accident because I left the car at service and had the service manual in my hands. And it was the, at that time, owner of Breitling, Teddy Schneider. And so besides car, my other interests are in watches. So it was very special to me in a sense.
That's cool.
Yeah. And I met him and asked him, you know what, do you remember this one? And he said, yes, bien sûr. Huh? I had a good time in that car. I really loved it. You drove so many different cars in your life already, right? Because even a short time, because you have this variety of cars. But what would you say is the best driving classic BMW to you? Or young timer BMW?
Okay, if we say classic, it's for me definitely BMW 02 series. I really like the shape. I really like light cars. And it definitely must have the 2-liter 4-cylinder engine. But if we talk about young timers, I said it already, it's the BMW E39 M5.
Yeah.
This car just truly embodies, one of my youthful dreams. I remember driving this car at Need for Speed Hot Pursuit 2. And believe it or not, 20 years later, I had the chance to drive it in real life.
Yeah,
I played it in silver, and then 20 years later, I was driving it in silver.
Wow. I mean, that's...
So Benjamin Voss and Matt, they made it possible for me to drive with that car from Munich to Como last year.
Mega.
It was crazy. I really I was so close to cry.
Of course, it's very emotional.
It was very emotional, and the car still left me speechless. It's for me one of the most beautiful BMWs ever built. Yeah. And beside of that, of course, I also like the E34. I also like the E38 7 Series. There are many, many beautiful classic cars of BMW I like, but I think number one is the M5.
And I agree, but actually this is not my favorite shape of, and not the favorite version of the M5, but also...
What's yours?
Mine is the E60. I love the E60 with the V10.
V10, yeah.
And I have to say, this car looks still, if you see the E60 on the road, it looks still modern in a sense. I mean, I drove the car. That was my time when I was really writing full-time for Classic Driver, and we were invited by BMW to the press launch of the car. And this was in the wonderful Bavarian area, and we were on an old military airbase in Fürstenfeldbruck, and we had the runway for us. So we're like 4 or 6 kilometers, launch control. And I mean, this was the brutalest thing I ever drove in my life. And it was brand new, right? So there was that actual dream car. But I really get it. I mean, I totally with the E39, 100%, absolutely. But for me, this is just purely through that thing that I sit in it. It was blue.
I can fully understand.
I mean, the car still, this is what I tell Adrian van Hooydonk all the time, that I'm so fascinated by this car because if I see it, even as a touring or as a normal car, it still has modern touches. And it was so modern at its time when it came out. And so I really was blown away. But as I said, M5 all the time, but I'm a big fan of V10s. Of course, my love is V8. This is also very Range Rover and all the other things, but I also like very sporty V10s. Like at that time, also the RS6 with the Gallardo engine. Brilliant car. Anyway, that's the thing. Emil, how do you see the future of the car scene? So we spoke a lot about trends, like social media changed the way we communicate about cars and we sharing cars. YouTube did a fair bit to this as well. So what is the new big thing? What do you think is coming?
I think the next big thing will be vehicles from the 80s to the 2000s. Mm-hmm. I mean, just look what's currently on the streets. Someone who's 60 already feels like they have had everything they desired. So, but someone in their 30s might be thinking about the BMW E38, for example, I was mentioning. They saw it in the movie Transporter with Jason Statham.
Yes.
Or, I don't know, a 964 Turbo, which was also seen in Bad Boys. I think there are so many fascinating or fantastic cars. I think end of the 80s, 90s will explode, and the early 2000s also. I mean, I also had some fantastic cars from the 60s, like the Pagoda,
Yeah.
or S-classes from the 60s, early 70s. And they're so difficult to sell because the younger generation is only interested in these cars when the father or the grandfather owned this car. And
Yeah.
if they don't have any memory to this car, then you can't really sell the car.
It's always the poster cars, in a sense, that makes people buy them 20, 30 years afterwards. And I agree, like movies have a massive influence on this. If it's James Bond, if it's whatever, I mean, you want to have these cars. And when you visit the BMW Group Classic Collection, and you see the car that they used in Hamburg for the shooting, like the 7 Series they used for the Bond with Pierce Brosnan.
Yes.
I mean, that's absolutely crazy to see this because, I mean, I was standing down in Mönckebergstraße, which was fully blocked when they do the jump off the park house. But anyway, that's absolutely right. And I think so too, and I'm excited to see that. And I'm also excited, and I'm very controversial with that, I'm also very excited to see how cars like a Tesla, like all the electric cars, i3S, all these kind of things, i8, everything, how they will age. I'm super excited about to see that. I mean, look at the Tesla Roadster. These cars are very horribly expensive at the moment, right? I mean, the small Lotus-based or inspired cars. So let's see. And I think we should always be open to this and be very inclusive to keep this celebration of the past and the present and the future. And that's so beautiful, I think.
Yes, sir.
Emil, before we close, because time is up now, unfortunately, I mean, hey, we could really literally talk for ages.
Yeah.
So what's next? And where have people who might like to visit you like you did when you make the career switch, meet wonderful people, where can they see you next?
There is an upcoming event in September of Felix in Stuttgart from the Heizer Club.
Yeah.
And I'm currently also working with someone which we both know very well on an upcoming Halloween party. It's unfortunately nothing yet fixed. I'm still waiting for so many informations, but we both are working very hard to make it happen.
Cool.
In our beautiful city, Hamburg. But beside of that, one of the most important aspects would be to do again something as a charity project.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you saw it last year. I did something with the head shop Hood Falkenhagen, where we did some charity beanies. And when you just bought one beanie, the second one was a present for someone in need.
Yeah,
and I'm
lovely.
looking for someone who can help me this year again. And yeah, beside of that, I think I will just move on and do the things I'm doing right now the best. So,
and there are many,
working on content creation, making some car wishes true, working on my own online shop, because I wouldn't ever expect that people are really interested in Sundowner products like a shirt, like a cap, posters. It's really fascinating. I always dreamed about it, but it was so far away, and now I'm just in the middle of the process.
Crazy.
And let's see what the future brings.
And we will. And so everyone who wants to do, please follow Emil on his Instagram, because it's very worthwhile. And then also you can stay in touch with him. Emil, thank you very much for joining us today at Classic Heart. It was a real pleasure.
Thank you for having me, JP. It was a pleasure indeed.
It was not only like talking to a friend, it was talking to a friend. I really appreciate it. And,
thank you so much.
Thank you for those tuned in. And if you like what you listen to, please hit the subscribe button at the podcast service of your choice, and also leave us a high star rating if you really like what we're doing here. And we're always open for comments, always open for advices. Who would you like to hear next as a guest? So please don't be shy. And of course, thank you to the whole team that's behind the podcast, which is Alex and Marcus from Scenario Studio, the whole crew from Shot One, Robin, Frederica in absence, but she's always there in our spirit, and she's here for the next recording. Emil, thank you very, very much for taking the time, and I cannot wait to go to our Baku trip.
Yes.
Karasho.
You have my number. Just call me, my friend.
I will do. Karasho. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.